ora koutou, ngā mihi kia koutou. My name is David Clark, I am the local MP for Dunedin North, and I'm joined on stage by Claire Curran, somebody here, MP for Dunedin South, and Zadie Allen, our Waitaki candidate, the wonderful Annette King, who is travelling with Jacinda, and Rino Tarakatani, our wonderful MP for Te Tai Tonga. And I have the privilege of introducing the next Prime Minister. I've been lucky enough to know Jacinda before she was involved as an MP in politics. We've known each other for a long time. Jacinda has always been a person of exceptional values and integrity. And I think we all know that when we see her and when we meet her in her role as an MP too. That shines through. She's an amazing person. There's a movement for change which all of us can feel. We're very excited and we're thrilled to have you here, Jacinda. Thanks for changing your schedule to come to Dunedin earlier. We really appreciate it. I know you're coming back and this is 1 week stopping point on the journey. We're thrilled you're here. Welcome to Dunedin, Jacinda. Welcome.
Thank you so much for all coming out. You know, we launched our campaign just on Sunday, and there was this little moment when we launched that campaign that I said, you know, when this happened 3 weeks ago, when these exceptional circumstances arose and where I found myself in the amazing position of being the leader of the Labour Party, from that moment, never once have I felt like I was by myself. Never once. And it's because of people like you. It's because of people like you. You know, from that moment, we saw this enormous spike in the number of people saying, yes, we'll knock on some doors as well and we'll make some phone calls, and people who reached into their back pocket. And then, everywhere I go, I'm seeing it in people who are showing up. So thank you. You think you've just come out today to hear me make an announcement, but actually what you've done is you've given me more fuel for my fire. So I thank you for that. And of course, I'm literally not alone. Sally, Rino, Claire and David, I have an amazing team around me. Claire and David I've actually known since well before they were even members of Parliament. Claire and I used to be flatmates as well. Now, you may not know this, but actually MPs flat together from time to time, and so Claire and I flattered. We know each other very well, and one of my favourite things about Claire is she always keeps a stock of frozen cheese rolls in the freezer in Wellington, which I have to say, personal favourite of mine. One of the many reasons the South is so great. David and I also met when he was working in Treasury. We met through cyclist acquaintances. I say that trying to imply that I'm a cyclist. I'm not. I just know people who do ride. And David, even then, I could see something in him that made me think. I watched him one day talking passionately about an issue and had this sudden moment where I thought, you'd be an amazing MP. And he is an amazing MP, as is Claire, as is I can't go on without first saying something about my wonderful friend, Annette King. Who I keep telling people to call Auntie, and she hasn't told me off for that yet. But in every way, that's how she feels to me. She did say, though, that her role this time would be Queen Mother on the campaign trail. She's been absolutely wonderful. You know, when I was coming down here today and planning a few things to say this afternoon, I was reflecting on why this moment in time, these 4 weeks before the election, why they feel so important and so critical. You'd expect any member of Parliament to say that, particularly one in campaign mode, but this particular one feels different to me. And I think the easiest way for me to encapsulate it is that I think New Zealand's always taken great pride in the fact that we've always aspired that no matter what kind of life we've had or what kind of generational change there has been, we always hope that for the next generation it'll be even better. That's what we always strive for. You know, we're that kind of nation where you just always want to give a little so the next person has an even better run. And you see that in the way that we approach life. I feel like we're in this moment of time where we can keep being that country, keep being the one that makes things better for the next generation. Or actually, we can be the turning point where it stops being better. And unfortunately, there are some markers that tell us that we're at that cusp, we're at that turning point. We have the worst home ownership rates in New Zealand in 60 years. And Dunedin is not immune from that. Your home ownership has declined, depending on whether you're the north or the south, by about 6 to 8%. Dunedin. I've seen those house prices increasing down here. They are going up. But that's not all. Of course, the cost of rentals is going up as well, and probably the perennial issue for you guys, whether or not your rentals are warm and dry. Now that, for me, is a really fundamental right, housing. Housing is a right. And Dunedin's probably been one of those places that can always take great pride in the fact that it probably hasn't had significant waiting lists for things like Housing New Zealand, but right now it does. And in fact, it has a waiting list and a pretty significant number of state houses sitting empty. Now I know this is something that our MPs feel really strongly about. They've taken to the streets over it, and for good reason. Housing is a right. And we have things that we can do about that. You know, for anyone who's renting, and for some people it's a legitimate choice, it's age and stage. Or actually, I don't care if you're a university student having a good time, you deserve to be well and healthy in the home that you live in. Every rental should be healthy. In fact, I can say, hand on heart, the coldest night I have ever spent under a roof was when I came to Dunedin for Easter Tawny as a debater, and yes, it is a legitimate sport. And so that was my experience of your rental market. Everyone deserves to have a warm, dry home. Everyone deserves to have a roof over their head no matter what their circumstances. And if we do things like stop foreign speculators from buying in our housing market, close tax loopholes, and just get on with building houses and bring in that warrant of fitness for rentals, we can make a difference. So that's our choice. That's our choice, and that's our choice this election. There's a couple of other things that feel like we're on the precipice of when it comes to this chance, this vote, and for the next generation, but also for ourselves. One of them is just the environment that we're about to gift, or not gift. Now, our rivers are dying, and we know that. We know that of all the ones that we're monitoring, 60% of them are too poor to swim in. We've had a lot of talk recently about what we can do to turn that around, but actually we've got to be honest with ourselves that it's going to take some hard decisions. It's going to take us doing things differently. My view is, though, that we can do that together. I'm not interested in blaming anyone. I'm not interested in the history of how we got here. I'm just interested in how we can turn it around. Promoted some ways that we already believe that we can do that, and some of that actually does mean us contributing. You know, we have water bottlers right now making a pretty good, handsome profit off bottling pristine aquifers and shipping offshore as a product. Water, which used to be a resource that we use together, is being treated differently now. And we've proposed a way to deal with that that, yes, has some flow-on effects, but our choice is either we all pay or some pay, but either way we do it together. And the same goes for climate change. You know, New Zealand trades on its clean green image, and I believe in that image. I just want it to feel a bit more real. And I want us to feel good. I want us to feel good on the international stage, not just because it's the right thing to do and it's the challenge of our generation, but because we are resident in the Pacific Islands. And no one's bearing the brunt of climate change more than some of our Pacific neighbours. If you go to Kiribati or even Tuvalu, they'll show you where the water used to be and where it is now. It's real. And so again, we need to just get on and do something about that. We can debate targets, or we can actually have a plan. We want to legislate our climate change targets. We want a climate commission. We want carbon budgeting so that we can plan together, we can ease the path for affected industries, and so we can proudly trade on our brand because it will be real. And that we can do this election. That is our choice. Briefly though about the importance of looking after our regions as well. Some of you may know this. I grew up in a little town called Morrinsville. Before that I spent a bit of time in a place called Murupara. I think a lot about what we do for young people who live outside of some of our bigger urban areas and the hope and opportunity that we're going to give them as well. Now there are over 3,000 young people in the Otago region who are not in employment, education or training. 3,000. Now, my standard measure for things like this is 3,000. That's over half my town. That is over half of the town that I grew up in. That is a big figure to me. It should be a big figure to all of us because that's 3,000 examples of wasted potential. Now, we can stand back and just wait for things to get better, or we can say, actually, government does have a role in making sure that there's good opportunities, good job prospects, innovation, ideas, making sure we work with local councils to make them happen. We've got a great example. We came down to Dunedin and said, well, what are some of the things that you're really good at? This is such an innovative, creative city that one of the ideas that came out was a centre of digital excellence. There are some amazing gamers down here. And I will not have them mocked. Their future is gaming, I tell you. And I don't mean pokies, I do mean video gaming, old school. It's a far cry from what I used to play on the old Amstrad. It's pretty amazing. And this is a place where we could really capitalise on that if we worked together. Those are the kinds of examples I want to see more of. But I also actually just want to give that next generation some hope. And giving them some hope also says that actually when times are tough, we're going to be there too. Health should be a key issue this election. It absolutely should be a key issue this election. I don't need to tell you that the Southern DHB is underfunded. I know I don't need to tell you that. I'm going to mention it anyway, but I don't need to tell you that, and it's true. And there'll be lots of examples. I'm constantly coming across people who have an example, for instance, of where they went to see a specialist with such bad knee pain, but was told that the operation, they wouldn't be moved up for their operation until they couldn't walk. No, that's not the health system that you and I believe in. And actually, I want to put that in contrast to the people that when they do get into our health system, you'll always hear them say, the people who work there are amazing. They are phenomenal. They are phenomenal. And to our nurses and our doctors, and if some of you may be here, I want to acknowledge the amazing work that you do, because right now I know you are being asked to do more of it. I know you're being asked to come in and do shifts that you're not meant to be doing, to work overtime you're not meant to be doing, because of the stress and strain within the system, and I acknowledge that. And I say it can be different and it can be better. When we stood up last budget and said no to tax cuts, when we stood up and did one of the things that is probably the most politically unpopular thing you can do, we did it with our heads held high, knowing instead it would go to nurses and doctors. Because that's where our investment needs to go. And we did it as well, knowing that it needed to also go to a particular area which I am glad we are finally talking about in New Zealand, and that is mental health. I'm so glad we are having that conversation. It's a conversation we need to have. And even though we've acknowledged, yep, we've got to review what's happening in our services, we need to look at where we're falling down, when people are falling through the gaps. We also have some indicators of what we could be doing already. We know in our schools where we see our young people with the worst suicide rate in the OECD. We know that already there is evidence that says if you invest in health teams in your schools, you can bring down anxiety, depression and suicidal intent by 2/3. Now, if we know that, why would we not do something about that? That with Labour, there will be a nurse in every single state public school in New Zealand. Every single secondary school. And something on for our neighbours, for the neighbours you have in Canterbury and Kaikoura. We want to do the same with specialist teams for our primary and intermediate age kids, because we know of the effect of the earthquake in that area. So why not do something about that? And we can do something about that. But healthcare more generally, I want to speak now about what's happening here in Dunedin specifically. We need to talk about your hospital. Your hospital services 300,000 people. Now there's something that I love about Southerners, you know, that you just get on with it. You just get on with it. You know, you don't raise things too much, you don't moan, you just get on with it. But that doesn't mean that your health needs should be taken for granted. And when I look at the long list of problems with your hospital, the fact that you're cancelling operations when it rains because it leaks, the fact that it is uneconomic to maintain parts of the building, that it is an earthquake risk, you need a new hospital.
Absolutely.
You need a new hospital, and you need it now.
That's right.
This is where I can tell you it helps to have a Labour MP representing part of Dunedin, who happens to also be the Minister for Health. I'm 4 weeks early. Minister of Health TBC. And alongside Claire has advocated consistently for your new hospital. So I am here to reconfirm and announce that under Labour, we will start the build for your new hospital in our first term. Won't do. We will put it in the city. Because one of the wonderful things about Dunedin that makes you world class when it comes to things like dental health and your dental school is the collaboration with the university. We should hang on to that. And I can tell you what we won't do. We will not make it a public-private partnership. There is no good reason to put a hospital in the hands of the private sector in that way. No good reason. And all it will do is slow the process down. And actually what you need is speed.
Yes. Yes.
We believe by making sure that we give that certainty, by changing, of course, the process, that we can deliver it much, much sooner than what the government is saying. 10 years is too long to wait. 10 years is too long. Now, we will make sure that in this process, we bring everyone who has an interest in this together. Regional Council, the university, obviously the DHB. We will work alongside iwi. We believe we can build a vision group that has all of the community's best interests at heart and the region at heart. And we'll be able to build a 21st century facility that works seamlessly alongside the university, that contributes to this wonderful, vibrant, creative community, that acknowledges the needs that have been long neglected, that says health is at the heart of making sure we have a strong foundation. If you have good health, if you have a good education and you have a roof over your head, that is where the magic happens. That's when our communities thrive. And that is the difference that we can make, that Labour will make, and that we are committed to this election. Now my plea is to you, please help us to share this message. Please make sure people know we can only achieve this together. Please make sure every single person goes out and votes on the 23rd of September. Together we can make a difference. Together we can do this.
we have something of a schedule from here, and we go shortly to answer any media questions that may arise from that very good news announcement. But we've got a few minutes, just if you're close by, you might get a selfie. I think there's been one or two of them on the campaign trail, Jacinda. But can I ask everybody once again to thank Jacinda for coming down here, interrupting her schedule to make sure we had an early Dunedin visit, and we all welcome you back, and we'll look forward to you coming and seeing us again on the campaign trail. Thank you.